Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. This is the Mount Grant School of Arts lecture series hosted here in the Pennsylvania Chautauqua's Hall of Philosophy. I want to thank Stimson Stroud for his support of this lecture series and our premier high-up corporate sponsor, Purpose One, for their support of our school this summer. If you don't know, our summer program is a 7-week pressure cooker that attracts college through graduate level students from across the country. And it's all about it's all about going outside and connecting with nature and learning about the nature of seeing. They have a rotation of teachers and critics that come through each summer that's, of course, beneficial to them. But this lecture series is also an opportunity to share them with the public. And Elisa Jensen is their first visiting critic this week. So one thing that's really nice with that is to have the visiting critic lecture on Monday. You'll learn about them. And then on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, they get a chance to meet with them for about 15 minutes to look and think about their work one-on-one. I'm excited to have Elisa here, especially because of fond memories of 1996, 18-year-old Jay wandering into New York for the first time to go to a New York studio school for the summer. And you were an older student there, very impressive older student, and were teaching an evening drawing class. And in the mythology of my mind, it was your first drawing class. So that's a fond memory of mine. Lisa lives and works in Brooklyn. She's received awards for her work from the New York Foundation for the Arts, the National Academy Museum, and the American Academy of Arts and Letters. A selected list of her solo and two-person shows includes Pamela Salisbury in Hudson, David Schweitzer, Contemporary in Brooklyn, John Davis in Hudson, Very Small Fire in LA that was a recent show, and a show that she's looking forward to in November, upcoming in Switzerland, which sounds amazing. Her work has been reviewed and featured in Two Coats of Paint, White Hot Magazine, Art Interviews, Hyperallergic, on and on. She graduated from Smith College and the New York Studio School and currently teaches at the New York Studio School and Pratt Institute. So, welcome.
So I want to talk to you about my work, and specifically the more recent work. I've done, worked a lot in landscape in this country and Denmark, where I have a lot of family. And I've done a lot of figure painting, sort of outdoor figure painting. But since the beginning of the pandemic, I started doing interiors of paintings looking out the window. And that really was because we were in New York City shut in. We were supposed to shelter in place, going out like once a week. We were allowed to go to the grocery store. So I went over to my studio, which is about a 10-minute walk from my house, and grabbed all my stuff, brought it home. So I chose a room in our house. We have a little row house in Brooklyn. And I just started painting out the window. And at that time, first I was looking out the window and just painting what I saw, and then I started to back up and think about the interior and the exterior space and the dialogue between the two. It was such a weird time. My whole family was working, I was teaching on Zoom, my daughters were going to school on Zoom, my husband was working on Zoom, we all had different parts of the house where we were sort of sequestered. So it did feel this quote, which you probably have already read: the house shelters daydreaming, the house protects the dreamer, the house allows one to dream in place. Humanizing the home, thinking about it as almost like an outer shell or a protective shell, something I was thinking a lot about in these paintings, and an interior and exterior relationship. So this is one of my kitchen, looking out to the backyard, it's snowy. I want to show a bunch of works that I'm really interested in, some that I've drawn from and some that I saw right before the pandemic hit that kind of really had a big impact on me and kind of helped to make this shift in my work where I was I went from painting really big paintings to painting very small paintings. I was painting bigger paintings, and I then started to just paint the interior. This is Vermeer. I always love Vermeer. And this is the painting I grew from in Washington, D.C. And just thinking about what it is that really draws me to Vermeer is in the act of drawing from the painting, you learn so much about how making these critical decisions about the placement, the intervals, the light, the rectilinear space, the diagonals, the kind of soft light, the shape relationships, the simplification of color. But when you look at that drawing, as I was drawing from it, I realized that the left string, so here the woman is weighing her valuables. So she's got coins on the table, she has pearls on the table, and she's weighing them. And the balance is equal. But the left string of the balance is the center of the painting. So most of the action happens on the left. What's happening on the right is really quite quiet in a way. And she's standing in front of a painting of the Last Judgment, the way of soul. So there's obviously this connection between what she's doing and the moralistic lesson. But the balance is equal. So you don't know really where she lies in this world. But it is a beautiful painting and works with so many layers. I saw a Nami's show, it was a Bonar VR and a friend's show at a film selection before the pandemic hit, and it was really an impressive exhibition for a few paintings that really struck me. And this is a little tiny painting about this big like Balaton, and it was the shapes that kind of grabbed my attention. And it was an unforgettable painting. Actually, it's like a couple of ladies dressed in their fine outfits that go out wandering around the town. They're called They're kind of enjoying the spectacle of the street life, still looking into a shop window. But the shape of that violet cape, surrounded by all that yellow, it's also the rearing of the window. So you have a window seeing it looking into the shop, there in front of the shop, so there's this whole dynamic. And look at like how that black and white bisects those. The black and white and how it affects the rest of the color. This one also really struck me as a little VR painting. When you see the actual painting, that salmon colored, strange shape of her blouse is so powerful. Surrounded by all that yellow. So those two paintings, but look how amazing that blue glowing there. So pretty. These two paintings really had a big impact on me. So when I started to paint these smaller interiors, I was really thinking about shape and color in a different way because I think it's of those two paintings. But art is another artist that I look to a lot, and this is one that I find really interesting in terms of all the divisions of the rectangle. I think it starts more the paintings that I've done on the show, right? You see how I'm inspired by his choices. I don't know if you know a Danish artist called MGSoA, but he's sort of like late 1800s, early 1900s, and was kind of an unusual painter in the kind of golden age of Danish. He wasn't really respected as the other ones were. He lived in recluse, but he did a series of paintings about the interior life. And I saw a show is that the awareness in society. Another quote, Bachelor, in terms of this painting, which is so great, is how concrete everything becomes in the world of spirit, or an object, a mere door. You give images of hesitation, temptation, desire, security, welcome, and respect. If one were to give an account of all the doors that one has closed and opened, all the doors he would like to reopen, I would have to tell the story of one's entire life. MGSoA is doing that in this painting. You really see his life. It's very intimate. And the woman, his wife, in the middle space, and quietly there. It's really, there's another explanation. And of course, the courtyard of his house. Another artist who is really inspiring to me is Ruth Miller. For the kind of energy and vigor in her work and the idea of presence, which I'm going to talk more about. She talked a lot about presence in painting and how she wants to give the objects or the trees, the characters in her painting a kind of energy and kind of life. So they look back at her, they speak back to her. I think these trees really have that sense of presence. So this is an earlier painting of mine. If you can see this, the salmon color. This is looking through several rooms. And it wasn't, I didn't think cameras right away when I was doing these paintings. So I started doing the paintings, and then one day I was like, oh, yes. But yeah, this is looking from the top floor of my house. It's sort of like floor through. And so that's the center room. There's a front room and a center room and a back room, which is my bedroom, and then the view out to the sort of Brooklyn backyard. And so I started to take over that central room there. There's a window to the right that you don't see. So there's some things that I've written about, so I'm going to read some of those things as we look at some of the paintings. Time. So one of the things I think about when I'm painting is time in terms of light and how light and time are connected. How light transforms and changes space, and how that space also changes not just from day to night, but from time to year. So I've been going back to many of the spaces in my house, and finding images and working on paintings from different kinds of light and different times of year. Specific moments of light excite me when something extraordinary is happening or taking place. Something might be glowing, like the curtain behind this window. Light on a winter morning coming into the room, or light in February sky, or the magic of the tree glowing, and a spring light with its electric blue leaves, or an autumn explosion of yellow. In my works of investigating a space that is lived in, a space that's seen over time, transformed over time, light, position of the sun at different times of the year, the air, cold, warm, freezing, hot, windy, all that I'm trying to kind of capture in my painting. So this is early picture. One thing that I also started to think about in terms of the idea of bachelor art with these paintings was that the window starts, as you can think of them as eyes. So almost like the room is your head, and I'm looking out at houses across the street and the houses looking back. It's like the first house, which has almost like cartoon eyeballs. It's too round. So one thing I try to include in my work is kind of dramatic tension. And it's different than a painting that is in a story. If you consider, for example, the dramatic tension inherent in the view out of the open window, the viewer is looking, or maybe even longing. The divide between the two worlds, inside and outside, is also profound. It serves as a veil, the divider or mysterious point that which one once passed changes everything. Never underestimate the power of the threshold. I think about that every time I leave my apartment. I think you guys too. Think about that changing space from one place to another, thanks to a better artist. Really being aware of your surroundings and moving from one world to another. Sometimes there's a lot of what was there that's not there anymore in the painting. And sometimes the strongest object in the painting could be what was there and no longer it is. When you think about painting a tree or a rock or a cloud, and then you paint the tree out, is it gone? It's not gone. The rock and the cloud, remember the tree was there because everything in the painting is about relationships. How one thing is spatially in relation to the other. So in this painting, there's a rocking chair, but you don't see it anymore. It's the same rocking chair that was in the earlier one I showed you. It's looking through the same more of that front space into the studio middle space. In my paintings, walls, window frames, are often off kilter, they're not horizontal, they're not regularized, absolute horizontals and verticals. This is because the point of view is really important to me. I'm not interested in regularizing the space, but more or making it conform to an ideal rather than interested in specifics of my angles of vision. The off-kilter angles create a plastic tension in the rectangle, and they push against the absolute vertical and horizontal of the edges of the canvas. Sometimes there's one vertical, and then everything else is off. That's the case. Those are all small, they're not big. It's 2 by 20. This one, the last one. I started off very, very small in the beginning, 8 by 10, and then I went up to 11 by 14, and then I did 16 by 20, and it felt huge. So I'm interested in color and luminosity and radiance. Some of the paints that I'm using are actually reflective, like that orangey color over there. It's our seamless painting itself, but that's copper. And then the other one, the window is a kind of iridescent pearl color, which felt perfect in the kind of cold January light. So color, yeah, is everything, makes light. And not a single color on its own, but or any color on its own, but the interaction of the colors throughout the painting helps generate energy. Think of it as kind of energy, but the colors working together on the energy, and the energy makes light. It's not depicting light or illustrating light, it's creating light by the relationship on the canvas. I think of color relationships in terms of color being transformative and emotive. So, for example, a slab of yellow can be like a hovering rectangle of fire, such as in Rothko, or deep violet can be the darkness of the void. The surface of the painting can reflect or absorb light, beckon or shut out the viewer. Paint can become beguiling, sparkling, reflective, the haze or dense mass in this ether. This is another one. This is really recent. The other two were 2 years ago. So this is from this winter. And I sort of felt like as I was painting this one that the outdoor scene felt somehow like a Japanese painting. So here you have like a collection of weird window objects. One is a sculpture that my cousin made. There's shells, a bottle of ink, and a jar full of shark's teeth. And then they're all lined up in front of them. This is an earlier one. And this is from the point of view of my bed. At a certain time of the morning, like when dawn comes, there's skylight in the hallway, and it's just kind of light in the hallway. It's the most amazing color. And I see it all the time, like I saw it the other day. I think when you look at paintings like this one, you can see that how much that purple shape of the Valentine cape is still part of what I'm thinking about. These colors here all stack up in this strange vertical, all these geometric shapes, and they kind of have a pressure against each other. I feel like they're kind of almost wedged into that doorway. And then looking at a lot of the paintings that I've been doing, I've noticed that there is often a vertical wedge in many of the works, which is this one is an autumn scene when I have a little tree in the back that turns yellow and autumn. Here it's spring. Light coming in and air blowing at the curtains. And, this did have a figure in it, and it's gone now, but it was here. Here again, it's the willow. This is in the spring, so when my husband saw this, he said it looked like sitting in the sea monster. It's a strange cartoon character who actually looks just like that, but with eyes. So one of the things about you can see in this painting, it's smaller, it's 11 by 14, is that the window is, you saw in the first painting, which is sort of French doors, it's pushing in against that vertical piece here. So the window pushes in and it's not at a right angle. These shapes kind of push back, I think them is pushing back a little bit the way that the doorway was wedged with those shapes and points of the hallway. Here, the lighter shapes are pressing against the window. But one of the things that I do a lot with paintings, you can kind of see the windowsill area here. There's a lot of little dots of color, which I have a lot of fun doing. It's sort of my favorite part of the painting. It's like I pretend like I'm Andrew Ford and I put dots of color everywhere. For me, I feel like doing that changes the scale of the painting. So a little orange dot on a kind of windowsill that has violets and blues on it brings your eye down to that space and it makes the cactus bigger than before, just because your eyes are drawn there. So I feel like they can be playful and lead you around a painting, or they can monkey with the scale, or just put your eye someplace. It's like almost like a magnet draws the eye somewhere. Here's a night scene. I've done a lot of night scenes that are pretty dark, but again, the windows, looking through the window and at the other houses at night. And again, that wedge of that light shape coming in, shining. There's another window there, we're not seeing all of it. Adds kind of pressure to the shapes. This is odd. It was tiny when the pandemic first started. Now it's still gargantuan. You can see a lot of those dots that are top. Oh, it's the same view, pretty much. Same window. Same kind of positioning almost, except for a year different. This is a different time of year, this is spring. So again, there's a dialogue between inside and outside. That one tree or plant or whatever, one form is a character and it's communicating in some kind of way. This one for me was really a dialogue between that reddish cactus and the yellow, say the sea monster. Like they're watching each other, but they're each in their own worlds. So that one, have this little bit fun to this one with the yellow tree being sandwiched into green trees that overlap, makes pressure, but also there's a kind of dialogue between the two trees. So this is a bigger one. I've done some bigger ones. This is 20 by 24, I think, and it's my husband lying in bed. There's the copper out the window. There's all the dots that come up to see. There's a mirror there, and so I'm the mirror. What's fun about reflective paint is that when you're looking at the painting, the light changes, the painting maybe changes. I mean, paintings do that anyway, light changing, but it's more dramatic when it's reflective paint. Things start to like sparkle and shimmer. This is the more recent one. This is inspired by my uncle's house in Denmark. It's a Danish landscape. It's Danish landscape, and it really maybe is one of the ones that reminds me most of Hammersley. It's the way that the chair and the image on the wall are cropped, but it's still in the space. So one of the things I think about with some painting also is this orange long rectangle that is the artwork that's on inside the space has a kind of shape relationship to the field of hay and the distant space. So they're kind of like, they're not the same, they're not like the two plants talking to each other inside and outside, but they are shapes that have this similar relationship. So I'm going to show you a group of larger paintings that I started in 2021, I guess, 2022. They're from my parents' house. A few years ago, my parents passed away, and I had to clear out their house. And spent a lot of time doing that, and in doing that, I started to do some small watercolors from the views, and then I came back to Brooklyn and I started making a series of larger paintings, and they're all the same size, pretty much. They're 30 by 22, which is a really weird rectangle, but that's what I found. And so these are all on those tall rectangles. This is one from my parents' kitchen. They lived on a river in Connecticut, and so the river was always an important part of where we're looking at the river. So figuring what the tide was, is high tide, is low tide. So the river was really special to me. My bedroom looks down on the river. This is view through the terrace. And I kind of doing things because I really wanted, I just needed to have a memory of that space. And I'm still working about it. These are two different paintings from this one, an early one on the left from my bedroom window. And then this one on the right is much more recent. It's small. It's much more, the one on the right for me is more dramatic. It really feels almost like you're gonna fall out the window when you look at the page. And the first one, I think I'm really just trying to figure out how to make these paintings. This one also has that wedge on the right hand side of space kind of pushing against this window. So these are showing you some of the watercolors that I had to put memory or on site. This the painting stuff too. That's and I continue to work on like I'll work on the paint, I'll go back to the watercolor and change it. So these are three paintings that are of that window. First one is winter. Second one is winter night, and the third one is spring. This is another one from Riverview. This is where I was doing a lot of watercolors, the little porch. This is the kitchen again, and this one also has that almost fall out the window when you're looking at the painting, or I feel that way actually. I feel like the river like dropped for me, the window frame pushes back, so there's a real kind of pulling and pushing and kind of torque and painting, which is something I've always been interested in. Somehow, for me, that's very exciting. That kind of extreme visual play and tension. It's very exciting. This is the last one I'm going to show you. This is a really recent one. And that's my neighborhood guy looking out the window. This is a scene like it's a very, very Brooklyn scene, although Rembrandt paints the woman at the window too. But oftentimes you'll be walking down the street and there'll be some old lady, like she's got her pillow, she's sitting there, she's spent the whole day looking out the street. That's her activity. But it's beautiful. So much fun. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Did you ever do any collage?
No, I don't. I know it's just not my thing. I love other artists' collages. There were some really cool Galaxy Pass collages in that big Galaxy Pass show at the city. They were phenomenal. They were like paintings. But I think I'm too lazy to cut them all this color. I want to be more direct and use my hand to make the shapes.
Thank you, first of all. I'm wondering what kind of a difference you notice, if any, in your color when you're working from life with the motif there versus from memory or from watercolor?
Well, I almost always bring the paintings back inside of one on there. Except for like when I go to Denmark and stuff, but I haven't done drawings there recently. So I guess that memory experience has become really important for me. Plus, a lot of what I want to do with color, I have to see it happening on canvas, and it takes a long time. I usually put the paintings up, well, my little studio right next to my bedroom, so I put the paintings on the wall opposite my bed. Got a few of them there right now. And I just look at them just to figure out if I need to change something or if it's enough or it's not enough or what needs to happen. And it takes me a while sometimes to figure that out. Like I'll go for like the big color relationships, which should be more generalized, and then get more and more specific and add more elements. But it takes me a while to figure out all these things. Like this one, that color of the building was like 5 million different colors. And you can kind of see that. You can see that the undercolor is showing really the final color was I took some cobalt violet and I just lightly kind of raked it across. And also the black coming in because that whole big fence at the bottom is green and it's so garish. And it just didn't like work for the painting, so it had to be darker black.
When you're painting from memory, is there anything specific you do to help you remember those color relationships or like shapes?
I guess I'm kind of reinventing it. Like the snow and that one, that was the hard one to figure out. Then I also had to work with, like the window lines were not red, obviously. It's a white painted wall, but it's dark in relation to what's outside. So it just had to really manipulate the colors until I got the relationship to work right.
So I have a question about these precedents and visual metaphors. So you were talking about one of the outside spaces being very Japanese, or the hammer shoy of the chair and the table, or picture getting cropped. And I'm wondering if those precedents are sort of the thing that excite you at the start, and those ideas sort of are the impetus for beginning the picture, or if they're things that are found slowly through the process of working and coming to as you work.
Yeah, it's really found in the process. Like the one that felt like Japanese, I just wiped all the paint off and the bounty towel made little circular marks on the paint. And so it had this weird texture. And then I found that I just put like it was too white. So I brought a lot of color into the whites. And doing so, I wanted to get the feeling of snow on the willow tree branches. So I kind of went in and painted the interstices between the branches. That's very, very pale green or pale greenish red. And then all of a sudden with that texture, it started to feel almost like a Japanese screen or something. I don't know why. Maybe because this is the quietness of it and how it gets attention to the negative spaces.
Again, thank you so much for sharing your work tonight. It's really special to be here and to hear about their artwork. I would love to know more about your artistic process, about what materials you're using, like acrylic paint, oil paint, brushes. Are you working from a palette knife? I hear you're wiping things. I'd also like to just know about a day in the life of you. How many hours are you working on your paintings?
Yeah, so I only well paint. I love well paint. Acrylic, I can't get a sense of I'm a very tactile painter. I think that all artists have their own sense of touch and you have to find a material that can speak it. And for me, I've tried acrylic, I've a lot of acrylic, but really oil paint has this sort of viscosity and density, and it's really nice. I love it. So yeah, I do wipe down a lot. I do a lot of dry kind of sort of scumble paint and layering one color on top of another, because I'm really trying to figure out what the color relationship is, and I just try it and try it and try it again. So this kind of starts to work like that weird pinkish wall, and or trying to get that garish color, which is the whole inspiration of painting, but it's legit. But it's got like 10 layers on it. This color, and then the interior got all darker. So I'm really kind of like it's really like well, so I do a lot of looking at paints. Like I'm not always painting, I need to think about what the colors working. I'll have right now 3 paintings going, and I'm a little bit afraid of all 3 again. So I'm kind of a little bit of what I'm looking at them, like, what am I gonna do? Probably it's time to start a new painting and get another one going in there, because I can't, I think, the color is okay, but it's not enough. And I don't know what it is yet, but I'll probably go back and I get home, pull one off the wall and start figuring it out. But this one was a nightmare. It went on for over a year. I kept painting and repainting, and I was painting the back space and then changing the front. You can sort of see that the front in many colors, including the red, and then probably it was a red and then a blue and then a red and a blue, and I got both red and blue. And then the back space was getting more specific. At some point, you could see all the little patterns on the lace, but that's ridiculous. And then I painted the curtain darker, and everyone was like, "Oh, it looks like a dirty curtain."
Thank you for your presentation. I was curious about figures in your painting. They're very still and almost like furniture making. Sometimes you maybe explore with the figures. Do they ever look back at the painting, or are they ever in motion?
Yeah, I have done that. Not with these, because they're kind of home paintings, so there's not a lot of like running around the house. But I have done some larger paintings, not often where somebody's looking back at you, because I think it's like one of the hardest things to do. But I did do one big standing figure that was looking right at the viewer, and it took me a long time to figure that out.
Thank you for being here. Your paintings, even when they have just a sliver in the interior, have a certain coziness, but not quite cozy, with an edge that might be sort of unidentifiable. I understand there's a Danish word that says up, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it.
Hygge, that word.
Hygge?
Hygge, that cozy word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you speak to that in your Danishness, Scandinavianness, which I see in your paintings?
I think it's there. It's hard for an individual to see those things about themselves, but I have people have often said to me, so there must be something there. The interior is very important in Denmark, and Danish design is really, everybody knows about Danish design, and it's beautiful. And there's a kind of control element to Danish design in terms of, which I think is interesting. It's a very esoteric thing, but I feel it just is the way it should be. That's part of Hygge a little bit. There's a control to it. I don't know if that's dark or not, but it's not what you think about when you're thinking about Danish design. Really. It's control. It's cold and dark for a lot of the year. So making your interior is comfortable, but also controlled space. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Thanks so much for sharing your work with us. It's really wonderful. And I guess I have more of a comment than a question. But I really appreciate your values, the darks, and then the glow that you. And thank you for giving us the tip about the dots. Really wonderful. Thanks.
You kind of started in the beginning talking about how you were drawing from other pieces of work and how you kind of uncover those subtleties when you're drawing masterworks and that kind of thing. I wonder how your relationship to your own home might have shifted as you were creating those really intimate paintings of your home, or vice versa. Like if the intimacy of the locations that you were painting affected the outcome of the pieces that you were making.
I think so. I think the funny thing is that it changes so much over time. Like you saw the same window, but their paintings feel totally different. And the same view through spaces. I mean, this one is the same as one of the first ones I showed you, which is a lot darker. That one, same curtain. So it's really, I think that has to do with the time of the year, you know, this is it's winter and not spring, so it's more open with the light. But this was also like right in the pandemic, so that had an effect on things too. You know, when this first started going out more, I got really sad because I really enjoyed my hibernation at home. I like the peacefulness and just being in the space and
So everything, but I'm noticing some texture. I'm wondering if you leave some like texture with the gesso or are you completely this down?
well, there is texture with the gesso because I'm really happy to do that. I always wanted to be smooth and it's not, but I do like to put 5 coats on and I change from horizontal to vertical so that there's like a weird little grid already on the paint. And I use foam brushes, but I still get those lines, it's annoying, but so there is that texture from underneath and through. And I would sand them, but like I don't have the kind of environment to put in. So I'm trying to be conscious about the toxic level of dust and things like that. I don't use turpentine, I only use oil.
All right, thank you.